Hi. You all know me. This is weird. This is different. I actually, for a moment there, I was like, oh, what's next? And I was like, oh, it's me. Oh, no. Oh, it's me. Okay, great. So you guys all know me as the music guy normally over here, but, you know, I do other stuff. Why am I doing this today? Well, we were figuring out what was going on this week, and we were trying to, Carolyn called me, and we were like, there's a storm happening. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Bob and Shannon are in the middle of the state. We don't know if we want them to drive down. We don't know if they can drive down. So I was like, well, we'll figure something out. It's going to be fine. We don't have to worry about it. Let's not do a recorded Unity Worldwide Ministry thing, because we just did one, and we have another one coming up next week. Next week? 2 weeks? Sorry, never mind. So we have that, so let's not do that. And we have Reverend Lee Johnson coming next week, which is awesome. So that's great. And I was like, well, we'll figure something out. And then Carolyn said, well, Reverend Debris has a recorded thing for just this occasion. I said, this is wonderful, because don't we all want to see Reverend Debris anytime we can, right? So if we can get to see her halfway through her break, let's do that. And then she said, yeah, it's called What If? And I was like, oh, we just listened to that when the tornadoes went through her neighborhood, because she was living in her RV. And I was like, well, we can't do that. So I am driving down. I've been traveling between here and Fort Lauderdale during hurricane season. And I was driving down the highway, talking to Carolyn, hands-free, don't worry. And I was like, well, you know what, why don't we just, I'll come up with something. We'll talk about it. We'll make it about, like, I don't know, weathering the storm or something like that. And she's like, that's a great idea. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Kind of the idea came about it as what is personal conflict? How do we weather our personal storm? And how do we keep what we're doing to cope with the world around us? What are the tools that we use? And what are the pitfalls in those tools that can kind of get us off track? Or how do we avoid the world living in it as we are with our tools, our spiritual tool belt, as we like to say. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Why am I talking about personal conflict and weathering the world? I don't know. No, actually, I do know. I've in my professional life before this, I was a rather large problem solver. Problem spotter is more of actually what I did. I would go to businesses and kind of wander around. I would look at their books. I would look at their building. I would look at their procedures and be like, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, that's bad. You should change that, change that, change that. Luckily, I'm also a problem solver, so I would often then come up with a giant list of things to be like, okay, and here's how you can change these things, and it's going to be okay, I promise. So that's what I like to do. I like to look at things really critically, and I like to give them the answers. However, when you like to find the critical things, sometimes you're like, oh, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, and everybody else around you is like, oh my gosh, oh, this is bad, oh, this guy is like tearing us up, this is bad, and you get lost in the problem spotting, and you never make it to the problem solving part. So that's, that was something that I did. I actually realized the moment that was a problem when I went to one of my stores, one of the video stores that I managed, and I was just an associate district at the time, and I went there, and we had a great day. The manager was an older manager. She had been at the company for years. And I remember she was kind of off later in the afternoon, and eventually she was like, kind of like really teary. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, are you here to fire me? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. I'm actually here to help you. I'm not here to fire you. I'm so sorry. And I realized I have a problem. People are seeing me as this negative thing. So I flipped on my head, and I became way overly positive. So everything became wonderful and perfect, and it's okay, and it was great. And then I realized, especially just recently, when you're managing people's senses of goals and what is possible, if you're constantly positive, boy, oh boy, When you have a problem, people are like, well, why can't we fix it? And you're like, well, it's physically impossible. So, you can't be either of those two things. You can't just be a problem spotter, and you can't just be like, it's fine. So, that's what I'm working on. That's where I'm at right now. And, the three things that I've always looked at, what we're going to talk about today is kind of three topics, three spiritual ideas that are bad. Two of them are bad. One of them I like to mark as bad because a lot of people tend to misuse it or tend to use it as a get out of jail free. So I'm going to talk about those three topics. I should have made slides. I'm sorry, but we're going to gloss over it. It's more practical than it is metaphysical, so don't worry. So what are the three topics? The first topic is, if you're familiar with the author Deepak Chopra, he wrote the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success in 1994. It's the idea of the law of detachment. Don't get attached, have goals, set goals, make them, but don't get attached to that outcome so much. You're not supposed to be, you're supposed to want the outcome, but you're not supposed to get attached to it. If it goes south, don't fret, yada, yada. We'll talk more about that. But that's the idea of that. The second one, and that's bad sometimes, which I'll talk about. The second one is the idea which Carolyn brought up to me. Thank you, Carolyn. Carolyn's awesome. Can we just clap for Carolyn? Really? Like, the amount of work that she does in the background is just crazy. Thank you so much, Carolyn. But that's the idea, is spiritual bypassing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And originally coined by John Wellwood in a psychological studies paper in 1984. So we're going back a bit. None of these things are new topics, but they're still all relevant to us today. Spiritual bypassing, John Wellwood described as a tendency to use our spirituality to, our ideas and our practices to sidestep, kind of just, avoiding unresolved emotions. We were avoiding, issues, psychological wounds that we might have had, and unfinished developmental tasks. Basically saying, oh, it's okay. I'm spiritual. I'm a spiritual being. It's going to be fine. I got this. I'm spiritual. It'll heal. I don't need to think about this because I'm going to let my spirituality take it over. So that's spiritual bypassing, using that as a shield. And then toxic positivity is the last thing that we're going to try to weave into this weird narrative that I've got going on. And it's a newer idea. Toxic positivity is not necessarily newer, but the term is getting thrown around a lot lately since, if you look up the statistics on when toxic positivity became kind of a hot button topic, it was right around 2020. Wonder what happened then. Wonder why we all started to be like, it's okay. Toxic positivity is basically the idea that any negative thoughts, any negatively perceived emotions need to be just absolutely avoided. It's fine. It's great. It's wonderful. I'm fine. I'm great. I'm wonderful. Those are all good things. But when you take it to the extreme, it can be a problem. It's the idea of, we're overlooking and dismissing our true feelings. We're just saying it's fine. We're not actually feeling that it's fine. We're just saying it's fine and trying to convince ourselves that it's fine. That's a big me. I say that. Reverend Evelyn, when she was here just recently, had us all do those little score ourselves, and that was like one that just kept coming up to me. I'm like, I need to actively work on some things. So why are we talking about these things? The law of detachment, spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity. Well, the law of detachment's a good thing, but it can be used incorrectly. They're all good things. We just sometimes misuse them. We don't misuse them. We just use them to the absolute extreme. We go the whole mile with them. The law of detachment teaches us that we shouldn't be attached to outcomes. So what do we do with them? We go, it's fine. Whatever happens, happens. It's going to be okay. I promise. It's fine. I don't care. I'm detached. I'm spiritual. I'm detached. I know to not worry about that. Inside, it's eating us up. And that's okay. It's okay. Because what we're supposed to do with the law of detachment is you're supposed to actually look at that thing, go, you know what, whatever happens, happens. When it happens, after it's happened, what did I learn from the whatever the outcome was? Did I fail? Did I succeed? What did I learn from that failure or success? And then look at the journey, because it's all about the journey that we take and how we've grown in that process. So while we tend to use it as a shield to be like, it's okay, I don't mind what happens over here, we can use that really nicely to be like, you know what, whatever happens, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to learn a whole pile of new things. I'm going to learn a whole pile of new tools to take with me through life, and it's going to be okay. Not in the toxic, it's going to be okay way. So, and then spiritual bypassing, which is generally speaking a negative term, which I thought about this one. I really liked flipping this one on its head. You know, if we're saying that we're spiritual and we're using that as a bubble, we're putting that spiritual bubble around us, and we're saying it's okay, I'm spiritual, I don't need anything around me to help me, I've got this, I'm going to let it go, I'm going to be spiritual about it, I'm going to meditate on it, I'm going to pray on it, and it's going to work out. Well, what we learn from that is that's awesome. We are spiritual beings, and we can celebrate that. We can do all of those things. We're just supposed to work a little bit towards it. We're not supposed to just take something that's hard and go, it's over here, I'm spiritual, it'll work out. That's kind of the point. We're still supposed to take that journey. We're still supposed to work towards the thing. Remember, we're humans right now, living as humans, but we're still spiritual beings, so we need to enjoy the things. We can't just say, I'm spiritual beings, I'm going to let that be. Enjoy the bad part. Enjoy the struggle. Enjoy what we can. Next time you say, we'll talk about that. Never mind. I have activities. I took a page from Debris, don't worry. And why is toxic positivity good? Well, if you drop the toxic part, it's just positivity. And it's just okay. It's just seeing the silver lining in things. And wow, isn't that so important? Isn't it important to see the good in so many different things? Isn't it important to understand that sometimes things are bad, but what can we find? Where is that good thing? It's the, I failed at my task, law of detachment. I failed at my task, but what did I learn from the journey? And I'm not necessarily saying, it's fine, everything's okay. It's what did I learn on my way there? And then celebrating that little idea. So those are the three concepts, how they're both good and bad. You know, the law of detachment, spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity. Generally speaking, three tools in our little tool belt as spiritual beings to be like, how do we interact with the world? And not pushing the world away. Because remember, we're here right now. We got to interact with the world. So what can we do to use those? And I like what Debris always leaves us with, is the idea of is her little love work, her homework idea. Well, she just talked for 4 weeks on intentional living, right? The idea of living intentionally, and I think I would say 1.5 of those weeks was on personal conflict, and how we looked at personal conflict, both outer and inner, how we resolved it, and how we worked through it. So we're going to take those concepts and our tools, and we'll go back to intentional living, and we're going to say, all right, well, here's what we're going to do. Let's take a look this week. Just sit down, and you can take a look at an interaction, or take a look at multiple interactions. It works if you look at a few different things, or you take one thing and you kind of spider web out. If you've ever seen Reverend Debris' notes, they're not like mine. I can't show you what they look like. I think she's flashed them before. It's a big circle, and then it's just topic, 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 and then all the stuff that matters there, and then all the stuff, and she fills it in. So this is kind of a good way to do that. Take an idea. Take a conflict that we've had. Take a situation. It doesn't even have to be a conflict. Maybe it was a good situation. Maybe it was a bad situation. And let's look at that interaction in your life and say, what was the outcome that I wanted? What is the outcome that I want? What are we doing? How am I attached to that outcome? What bothers me? What doesn't bother me? Am I attached to it? Am I disassociated from it? What bothers me from that outcome? Should I be more attached? Should I do something about it? Should I be less attached? Should I step back a touch from that? Take that interaction, take that conflict in your life, look at it, think about it. Think about how attached you are to it. Think about what you can do. Kind of come up with which side of the spectrum you're on, and then now you can steer yourself that way. Maybe then look at something, if that conflict is something that you're detached from, is that something you're spiritually bypassing maybe? If you're saying, you know what, it's okay, I am a spiritual being, I'm going to let it go. And this is the controversial point that I'm going to say. Take the last thing that you said, I'm going to let go and let God, which is a really big phrase that we like to use. Take that last thing in your life that you said that about and really sit with it. It's good to say let go, let God. Don't get me wrong. That's super important. But let's sit with it and think of why we said that and what did we learn from that? How did we get in touch with our feelings? How did we let that help us get in touch with the result of whatever we let go of? And what can we heal from in that sense? When we let it go, did we let it go because we needed to let it go? Maybe it was doing more damage to us, holding on to it. Or did we let it go because it was just easier to let it go? Think about that situation. Sit on it for a moment. Don't rehash trauma. Never rehash trauma. Never bring something back up to yourself. But just sit at it. If it hurts, let it go. If it doesn't hurt, think of what we've learned from it then. Think about how you can celebrate that and how you handled the situation. Maybe you let it go and you let God, but now you can realize maybe it's time to bring that back. Maybe it's time to work on something. Maybe reattach slightly to it. You get to learn the experiences. We get to feel these experiences uniquely as we are. So celebrate those feelings. The bad ones we can let go. Don't worry about that. And finally, take a look at something that you've seen maybe with rose-colored glasses, something that you were like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Key West never gets hit by hurricanes. That level of extra positivity and say, hey, it's totally okay to feel real emotions about this. It's totally okay to be scared out of our minds every time that there's a little blip on the radar that comes up. And what's important is we still stay positive. We still know we're going to be okay. We still know that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we and the people we love are okay. Maybe we're going to evacuate. Maybe we're going to help other people evacuate. Maybe we're going to board up the church. Maybe we're all going to powwow here if something happens. But look at it in a real situation. Know that that's real, and we can't just go, it's fine. Everything's okay. So take that next time. Take the last rose-colored glasses, take them off, take a look, and then say, yeah, celebrate what we can do about it. Celebrate how it truly makes us feel. So, that's basically the idea. Those three tools, how they're both good, how they're both bad. It's important to recognize when we use a tool, how we can misuse that tool. I mean, how many people have used a screwdriver to hammer a nail in? Come on. But it did get the job done, just maybe not the way we'd like it to. So there's a good and a bad in every tool that we can use. And it's okay. It's okay as who we are right now to feel strongly, to feel passionately, and to feel deeply about anything and everything that we want to feel strongly, passionately, and deeply about. So I'm just going to leave us with the idea that, remember, we are all spiritual beings. We're all here right now having that human experience. So we get the joy of getting the most out of it that we can. Thank you.